Nice. Okay. So like comment, like, share, subscribe. Okay. Um what's so like what do you want to achieve in this video, like, basically?
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through this article. We're
Right.
gonna understand it, Bosco.
And what?
We're gonna understand the article.
Okay, cool. Right.
Exactly.
School children are proletarians. Why school children are laborers, the concrete activity of their labor and how surplus value is extracted from them. Sounds so dark. Okay, right, okay.
So basically, what's gonna happen is we're gonna read through it, and anything you don't understand, you're gonna ask me what it means.
Right, I don't understand what proletarian means for the audience.
Proletarians are a social class that's emerged in the 19th century, Bosco. They don't own anything that can make them more money. They use wage labor to survive. So they can only survive if when they make wage labor.
Yeah, so when
Okay.
they like go and do jobs.
Yeah. And their jobs after industrialization is like the machine does most of like the motion involved to like transform something. So what they do is they transform objects um to make them more valuable.
Okay. So they are like producing products.
Yeah, but the machine does most of the motion after industrialization. They just
Yeah.
like oversee the machine or like intervene.
Yeah.
So the productivity skyrocketed during industrialization. Before it's like one person makes like, maybe I don't know, Bosco, 20 candles an hour, and then after industrialization, one person could make 400 candles an hour
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something.
Yeah. So like will you want to like give like kind of like a sh brief overview of what this article is about?
So why school children are laborers, the concrete activity of their labor, and how surplus value is extracted from them.
So like I guess laborers is like straightforward enough, but like isn't labor that like the term itself implies that earn they earn money from their activity?
Kind of, but see, that's like wage laborers, but
Oh,
laborers is just like someone that does labor, I
so
guess.
you're basically saying that all school children are child laborers without earnings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I guess like if there's a world in the future that you go to school and you actually earn money, that's quite a amazing idea. Um, the concrete activity of their labor. What do you mean by concrete activity?
So it's not like an abstract thing. Um, so I'm saying their labor, the labor of the school children, isn't like an abstract type of labor where you like, can you pin down like what makes the things that school children do labor? Or like
Yeah, like
what's the actual
it's very
reality?
straightforward. It's not like a thing that you can like it's not like a work at home job. Like you have to go to school, you have to sit in the class, listen to the teacher saying things, you have to complete assignments, finish exams.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
is it
it's like it's
like
pretty ancient.
add up different numbers
Also,
or
you're
like
basically saying like physical, intellectually skilled labor.
the concrete activity is just like what's physically happening.
Right,
And
right,
then
okay,
like
okay.
the abstract activity is like um the more general what's going like the more general process.
Right, right. So like, and how surplus value is extracted from them. So like, are you saying that school children deserve more?
So I'm saying is the amount that school children get from their labor is less than the total amount of value that they create for society.
Oh, okay, okay, right. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I guess we can go like yeah, we can dive in now. Should I start reading?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead, Bosco. Just
Okay.
stop when you like don't understand or you want clarification.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. This is a Marxist argument steeped in economic and philosophical theory. The assertion in the title is not a cultural critique, as one might expect. This makes the core of the argument a bit difficult to get to without a bit of preamble, but I believe that following an effort to comprehend this article provides genuinely profound insights for the future of the communist movement. What is this word?
Which preamble? So it's like something you say before the thing,
Okay, right.
like a notice or like
So, like,
you know
what do you mean by this makes the
prologue.
core of the argument a bit difficult to get to with a bit of preamble? Like, so are you saying like you need a bit of like background knowledge before you can get to understand the argument?
Yeah, it's like the thing that really validates the argument. I can't put it at the start.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So, like, if it's not a cultural critique, like, what kind of perspective or criticism is this?
It's an economic and philosophical critique.
Right, okay, okay. Um, yeah, okay. Profound insights for the future of the communist movement. School children rely on wage labor for their sustenance outside of school, even if it's of their household spending from which they did not contribute their own wages, of which they have none. As it stands in capitalist society, labor is a definitive process. It creates commodities with use values which are exchanged, thereby confirming the value of the labor, yet not all labor exists as wage labor. This there remains household slavery, which is a form of labor that is not verified by the market as having exchange value, yet is valuable to society nonetheless. Therein lies the basis of all proletarian labor that it serves a social function of some kind, which is why it is a necessity for the capitalist society it exists within. Of course, it need not to be mentioned that the common sense answer to is school a social necessity is a resounding yes, but is that simply the result of an already schooled capitalistic world? Furthermore, does the labor within school not comprise of the labor of teachers and staff exclusively? Right, okay. Um, rely on wage labor for their sustenance outside of school. Like, I'm not so sure what sustenance means in this context.
So, what do you think sustenance means?
It's actually quite a rare vocabulary that I go around, but is it like something about like survival needs?
Yeah, basically, I mean, the reason proletarians aren't paid like zero, the reason they must be paid some amount of money is because they need to stay alive. And they need a certain standard of living in order to be able to perform the type of labor they do. The yeah.
Yeah, like basically like wage labor is the way of how a capitalistic society distribute wealth, right? So in a sense,
Yeah, so
it's like a
school
system of
children,
yeah, it's
yeah.
like a system of wealth distribution, income.
Yeah, sure. Yes, but school children rely on wage labor, so the people feeding them make a wage, and that's like what they need to stay alive.
For the teachers.
No, like the parents basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah.
so like this sentence basically means like school children needs their parents' support.
But from wage labor, but it's not
Yeah, like
like
from their parents' wage labor to support their existence in society.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Even if it's of their household spending. Like, what do you mean by labor is a definitive process?
So labor in capitalist society, it has to create commodities with use values which are exchanged.
So like it's like a necessary process.
Yeah, so a commodity is something that you create
Yeah, the
that you
products.
don't have to use yourself.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yes.
someone's carving wood sculptures and they don't need the to use the wood sculptures, they can like sell the wood sculptures they make. That's a
Yeah,
commodity.
yeah. Yes. Yeah, surplus.
Yeah, yeah. And use value is the like the physical characteristics of the commodity which makes it useful.
Yeah, like the function like yeah, the function of the product.
Yeah, so it's not it can't be quantified. It's just the qualities of
Yeah, yeah.
the product.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
like the use value of a pencil is that like you can write stuff with it.
yeah. And
Okay.
then that commodity has to be exchanged.
Yeah, yeah.
So labor in capitalist society has to create commodities. They have to have the use values. They must be exchanged.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean by household slavery? So is it like uh as like me as a family member needs to have like follow the duties of washing dishes after meals? Is that like household
Yeah,
slavery?
yeah.
Because
So you're not paid to do that. So it's that's why that term exists.
so it's like technically if my parents don't give me money for helping them to wash the dishes, it's household slavery.
Uh well, you know, they don't get paid either. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Therein lies the basis of all proletarian labor that it serves a social function of some kind, which is why it is necessity for the capitalist society it exists within. Is school a social necessity? A resounding yes. Does the labor within schools not comprise of the labor of teachers and staff exclusively? So, like, what do you mean by this question?
So it's a rhetorical question. It's like I'm saying school children are proletarian, but someone might say, no, the only labor that exists inside of the school is the staff. It's the
Right,
staff.
okay. Oh yeah,
They
that
they
makes
get the
sense, yeah.
wages.
That
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense
yeah.
why you asked this question in the start. Okay. If we are to believe that school children are proletarian, children must be laboring alongside teachers. The task of the lead teacher is performative. I have a development of this, but for our purposes within the classroom, let us just say that the concrete labor of teaching is the physical process of or, orating information. Proving the existence of the labor of school children is harder. It seems that a physical process is not a must. We are invited to ask what is the difference between mental and physical labor. The motor coordination that physical labor requires certainly does not find the mind to be inactive during the process. Mental labor, too, eventually demands that it is expressed through the transformation of material, whether it is the transformation of paper with pen or hard drive with keyboard. In schools, This is ultimate in the logic embedded in the test, but a student will be punished for not transforming physical material in the classroom too. Okay. Um, so like let us just say that the concrete labor of teaching is the physical process of orating information. So you're kind of like narrowing what you mean by concrete labor here.
So basically, I'm not trying to. Basically, I'm saying, look, it's really obvious to um say to see that the teacher is laboring in the school, right?
Yeah, it's
You can
very
just say
straightforward. Yeah.
they have to. It's so like what we know is that they have to like plan lessons and like mark homework and stuff like that. But even just like the physical process of like saying information is like enough, right?
Yeah.
So we can, for our purposes, like right now, we're trying to like figure out like the core of it, right?
So you're trying
So
to define what concrete labor is for teaching, and like the concrete labor of teaching is the physical process of, yeah, speaking out, like presenting the knowledge.
for now, we can just say we can just reduce it to that, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Um, but what is the labor of the school children, right? And
Yeah.
actually, um, is the labor of the school children mental labor, physical labor?
Mm-hmm.
Because the teachers have to physically orate, but sometimes in the school, maybe you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, you just need to sit there, be concentrated and listen. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So that's like mental labor then.
yeah, well, but actually, in the end, you have to do a test
Yeah.
and you have to transform physical material. You have to change the world physically.
Yeah.
And actually, in the classroom too, you'll usually have to you know, transform physical material as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, look,
But
yeah, like being in school is basically learning to transform physical materials in the right way in order
basically,
to.
here I'm just proving that the transformation of physical material isn't like a side characteristic to the mental labor that school children do. It's a higher characteristic of the mental labor.
Yeah,
Because in the
yeah.
very end, you have to do a test.
Yeah, it's like the proof of the mental laboring.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess like the last point, like, but a student will be punished for not transforming physical material in the classroom too. Like the two is like quite interesting because like it's kind of like implying it's the same for the teachers. Like if they don't teach, if they like slack off, they will be punished as well. So
Yeah,
it's
of
kind of
course.
so it's like
Yeah.
kind of like you're in a way proving that like school children are actually laboring, I guess.
Yeah,
Because like
that's the idea. Yeah, yeah.
right, okay, okay. Mental labor itself requires its own special treatment. It was an important point of development for Marx, where he noted that it should not be divorced from physical labor, and that its independent existence is a symptom of and is necessarily a product of class society. I'm not interested in declaring this to be wrong, but I believe the theory of mental labor can be further developed, and as a concrete activity at that. However, this is not the primary focus of this article. Instead, we will look at the labor of school children specifically. Right. Where he noted that it should not be divorced from physical labor. So you're saying like the mental labor and the physical labor of a student is kind of inseparable.
Yeah, there's physical labor and mental labor and physical labor. but the basis of class society is trying to part of it is like divorcing, trying to separate physical and mental labor. So the ruling class kind of they were they had to do like accountancy after the invention of agriculture. They had to like do accountancy, and then the physical labor was just like making the grain, making the agriculture.
Yeah, but like in this society like today, like the global society, right? There are there exists like wealthy like millionaires, billionaires that achieve like a degree of like financial independence. Like they don't need to work anymore, you know, like they have
Yeah, yeah,
passive
yeah.
incomes. So
Yeah,
like
so yeah.
so will you say like when a member of the society achieves like degree of passive income that causes them no longer need to labor, will you say they are like they are like escaped from like the proletarian class and become a bourgeoisie?
Pretty much.
Right, okay.
Um, yeah.
Okay.
De
Um
depending on the degree of it, it's like petty bourgeoisie or just like bourgeoisie.
yeah, right. So like why physical labor should not be divorced from mental labor then?
Uh, they're necessary for each other. So basically, this has become this is stopped like on a grand historical scale. This is slowing down the progress of humanity because you can only find out new things by physically changing the world. And the main way that people physically change the world is labor.
Yeah. So like what are like examples when like physical labor is like divorcing from mental labor?
Yeah, so basically, like,
Is test like a divorce of physical labor and mental labor? Because like test only serves as a function of like qualifying proletarians, like the working class.
um, like, like, think about the person designing the test, right? And then think about like the person designing the paper that the test will be printed on, right?
Yeah.
Not designing paper, making the paper, sorry.
Yeah.
The person making the paper that the test will be printed on. Okay, so I remember GCSE and some of the papers I could see through the front of the thing before the test started. So I could
Right.
read the first question backwards.
Yeah.
So if the person designing the test and the person making the paper work together instead of being divorced, they would fix that issue. Yeah, they
Oh,
would fix it. Yeah, yeah.
and you're saying like the fact that they can't cooperate under a test system is slowing down the transmission of information or the qualifying process.
Well, it's just slowing down human like it's just making human life worse, Bosco, in general. Yeah.
Like, will this point be developed like afterwards?
This isn't like my point. This is Marx's point. So I
Right,
didn't
right.
like I'm just noting that down, right?
Yeah, okay.
But
I guess we'll keep going on then because like it seems like if we want to dig deeper on this point we can, but it's not exactly like a focus of this article. So like I guess we will just go on. Um yeah, instead we'll look at the labor of school children specifically. The character of the labor of school children. The mental labor of school children is homogenized and standardized. The rate of learning is first set by the teacher to a certain class size, who follow along as they orate and present information at a set rate. The students are expected to either pay attention or not note the information down. Um, yeah. In the first case of paying attention, there's the abstraction of the raw sensory information into human language, that is, to perceive what words are being said or written, instead of merely observing at a more fundamental level, which exists as undetermined experience. I also explained this process using different terms at the beginning of an article about truth. This perceived piece of communication does not necessarily have to be language in the common sense, or language at all either. It might be a diagram or a video. Some readers might understand this as an automatic process. But think of moments where you are aware that there are words on a board or a page, but do not bother to study them. We might speak of look at that sign to mean doing the abstraction necessary to understand a piece of language, but the process of abstracting exists as the activity by which this is done, even if it is reflexive. Don't forget all those school children who are learning to read, where doing the abstraction is more difficult because they have fewer learned processes of abstracting written language to go by. Sometimes the student must do more abstraction than usual if, for example, there's particularly complex logic to the content, or if there's the use of many unfamiliar terms to construct an ontology. Okay. Um, so like the mental labor of school children is homogenized and standardized. Is that talking about the test?
Uh, Homogenized? Yeah, well, homogenized is like
Wait a second. Okay. It's not saying how many minutes left, but oh, so there's 9 minutes
yeah,
for
yeah,
this
yeah.
session. Okay.
Homogenized is like all the labor's the same, and
Right.
standardized is kind of like the education is standardized by the government.
Yeah,
So
so it's like a syllabus is settled.
I get to that. I get to the homogenized thing like a bit later, but like basically, yeah, the rates of learning is set by the teacher. The te like everyone in the class has the same experience of like the learning.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and like yeah, oral rate and present information is a set rate. So like yeah, they have like a time limit for the test. Um
No, no, it's like the teacher is like saying they hear the thing like at the same amount of time. So the teacher
yeah,
says
yeah.
one sentence, and then for everyone, the second sentence comes for everyone um after the same amount of time. So
Yeah, yeah, okay. So like in the first case of paying attention, there's the abstraction of the raw sensory information into human language. That is to perceive what words are being said or written, instead of merely observing at a more fundamental level, which exists as undetermined experience. So, like, what do you mean in this context, like undetermined experience?
so you have like ex the experience, but like it what like
Oh,
you
so like
it
everyone
doesn't
learn at
have
a different
anything.
pace. So like
Like
as like we are listening to the teacher writing down stuff, speaking about a concept, like each student has like a unique process going on in their mind.
yeah, like the experience itself doesn't have any substance unless you abstract it.
Right, okay. S- But like, what do you mean by that? Because like, if you're like concentrating and listening, you don't necessarily like think at the same time. You just try to like take
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the thing. So when you
So
say like when you're like listening to a podcast and you're like just you're not necessarily thinking simultaneously, like you're not necessarily like thinking about the content itself simultaneously as you are listening. So you're just like listening, concentrating. So is that like abstraction already?
If you know what words are being said, then you've done the abstraction to like turn the sound into words.
Oh, okay.
So it's like the more you abstract, like the more substance it has. So like if someone doesn't know English, they can't abstract as much information, you know. If you ask them like to repeat the sets of noises that they made, you'd find it harder to do because you understood less about the sound.
Also, it's like the reason why people say like chemistry have like a high level of abstraction is like because they use a lot of like simplified language, like symbols, equations, and like their text can like be really abstracted, like simplified, so that you have to have like the knowledge in order to interpret it.
Yeah, but like I said in the thing, right? It could just be like a diagram or a video.
Yeah,
So
right,
if you're
okay.
watching a video and you recognize that it's a house, even that's an abstraction. It's just like a really easy one.
Right, right, okay. Yeah. This perceived piece of communication doesn't necessarily have to be language in the common sense or language at all either. Okay, diagram video. Um, yeah, so you're like here elaborating on what you mean by abstraction, I think. Okay. Don't forget all those school children who are learning to read, where doing the abstraction is more difficult because they have fewer learned processes of abstracting written language to go by. So, like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so basically, if we were just walking Bosco and we I saw a funny sign, I was like, look at that sign. You you wouldn't like just see the sign and think, oh, there's words on this sign. Let me take the time to understand what it says. You know,
Yeah,
and then you start sounding it out like s a t cat cat the t f the cat it uh is like you wouldn't do that because you're very good at reading English compared to a 4-year-old.
yeah. So, like, basically, like, the speed of reading a language is kind of the same as like the speed of you abstracting information from the language.
Yeah, it's a process to read even if you're like fluent, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
actually still a process the same it was when you were, not fluent.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Mm,
So that's kind of going into thing like all like observation has some level of abstraction.
yeah, like you're processing information.
Even
In a
if it's
sense,
like not conscious, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, if, for example, there's a particularly complex logic to the content, or if there's the use of many unfamiliar terms to construct an ontology, I guess like with like the remaining like 2 minutes-ish, we can kind of like just focus on like yeah, this paragraph and like what do you mean by like to construct an ontology? What is an ontology?
It's just like sets, subsets, and supersets, basically. It's like someone says, okay, here are all the subatomic particles. You have leptons and bosons,
So like to
but some
like
bosons are mesons.
you're trying to understand the concept to construct a knowledge model.
Yeah, say like you've
Model of
never heard of
understanding.
numbers before, and then someone says like, okay, here you have all the numbers. and you have imaginary and real numbers. None of them are the same. But then in the real numbers, you have like the countable, you have the irrational numbers, you have like the integers, you have the prime numbers.
Right.
Some
So like you're saying
all
like
prime
like
numbers are
that
integers. Yeah.
model of understanding, that model of like uh categorizing knowledge is a form of ontology.
Yeah, constructing an ontology is like, green, red, yellow. They're all colors. One, two, and three. They're all numbers.
Right, right, okay, okay. So it's like a model of like information,
Oh,
organizing.
generalization is an ontology. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. Mm, yeah. I guess that does make sense. Like the harder like the concept is, like the more you need to process it to try to construct a model of knowledge.
Yeah, I'm just saying like not all abstraction is like the same. You can have easier and more difficult abstraction, and then give examples of like something that would be a bit more difficult than, just reading a sign.
And we talk about like how we understand like the more detailed mental processes of a person learning in their brain. And okay, so I will just read on then. Um, okay. Or if there's like the use of many unfamiliar terms to construct an ontology. In other case, in the other case, where a student write notes at least a little bit more abstraction than the minimum required in the previous case must take place, because they must perceive the language as they did in the first case, and then coordinate movements so that it become physically represented in some way. This means there is a second process of abstraction where this language is abstracted again to be relayed into a specific form using motor coordination. Yet, in the day-to-day, it is not always necessary for students to abstract highly enough to be able to have confidence in their understanding, such as being able to take the abstraction and apply it to different situations. This slacking does happen, just as students expected to pay attention can often get away with not really abstracting the teacher's sounds into language. So yeah, I think like reading this like paragraph helps to understand like what it means by abstraction in like the process of learning. Like writing notes is like a second layer of abstraction. You need to perceive the language and then yeah, write down it. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yet in day to day, not always necessary for students to abstract highly enough to be able to have confidence in their understanding. So like here you're like saying like having like a high enough level of abstraction is the same as being able to understand the content.
Uh, Actually, your level of understanding would depend on like the abstractions and whether or not they're good, Bosco. So it's like
Yeah, yeah. Like
there is no just like
how you process the content.
yeah, there is no yes or no to whether or not you understand something. It's like
Yeah, it's like you understand it correctly or not.
no, it's a like a gradient,
Right, okay,
a
yeah.
scale.
Yeah, yes. Yeah,
And part of it is like how many abstractions or like what the level of abstraction.
yeah.
But it's not like the only, it depends on how good those abstractions are as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it matter like for biology, it matters how you make biology notes, yes. Um, yeah. So like student expected to pay attention can often get away with not really abstracting the teacher's sound into language. So it's kind of like you're kind of like in a sense not concentrating, I guess. Because like you're not abstracting the sound into language. So you're just like merely listening to the sounds and not thinking about what those words means.
Yeah, pretty much, pretty
Right,
much.
okay. It is not only the fact that simply because students of a class have the same expression of the lesson, the general rate of abstraction must be homogeneous between students within a class, but it is the most basic expression of homogenization. In-class testing is also done to pressure those who did not do enough abstraction in class to prepare more at home or to do more in class. Homework which is marked and handed back might demand a certain type of abstraction at a certain level in order to be deemed a successful attempt. Classwork 2 relies on social pressure to further fix abstraction upon a certain rate and character. Oh, that's actually so true. Classwork. Like because like if you have yeah, students from Harvard HS Adams, if you have uh experience Mr. Fletcher's lessons, like it's basically all classwork. So like you have to copy down the question, which is annoying enough already, and then you need to solve it. So there's like that social pressure to finish that question on time, and then further fix abstraction upon a certain rate and character, like you answer it. So like yeah, I just I just in a sense dislike the social pressure. Because like like social pressure like it can be helpful and unhelpful at the same time. So
Yeah.
beyond this, there is a national curriculum which determines the content of abstraction, as well as ideas such as key stages, year groups, bourgeois bourgeois developmental theory, and behaviorism in general to homogenize the rate of abstraction in narrow and broad strokes alike. The minute-to-minute activities, an hour to hour, the week to week, and the year to year are all accounted for and homogenized to the highest possible degree by a gigantic bureaucracy, which amounts to a tenth of UK government spending. What do you mean by the gigantic bureaucracy?
Uh, just everyone working
Oh,
for the education, Bosco. It's like,
okay, okay.
and that's a tenth of the government's money spent on that.
A tenth of the money is spent on schools.
Is spent on the gigantic bureaucracy.
So
Yes.
like, is the tenth including university like higher education fundings? Like the whole education ladder.
I don't I don't think they get that much government funding these days.
Okay, sad. Um, yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
National curriculum um determines the content of abstraction. Um, Key stages, developmental theory, behaviorism. Um, yeah, okay. So like, yeah, like this paragraph, you're basically just like explaining like the like um yeah, like the years of schools, like year one, year two, uh upper six, lower six, like the homogenization of the education system, like for the rate of
Yeah,
learning.
yeah.
Okay. The content of abstraction is fundamentally alienating too, because the function use value it serves is that of a test. This leads to all kinds of contradictions, of course, such as a teacher sometimes demanding a highly useful abstraction from students when it is not in the interest of the graded exam. Hmm. Okay, so like the teacher is teaching something that is not included in the exam.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. This can be as simply as having a good appreciation of a definition when Memorization is all that is needed, tested for. Sometimes this will occur in a much more opaque way, and students will not be able to set it to words. In being unable to do this, the problem is not only that they are able to communicate less about their conditions, but they also understand less too. By setting floating ideas to words, the abstraction further develops. Yeah, so it's like articulating the concept. Right. Um, One might from here argue that products of abstraction in school are created for the purpose of developing labor powers exchange value, so that workers are more employable. This can then be used to explain how it serves bourgeoisie ends, but does not necessarily extract surplus value from the child during the schooling itself. What do you mean by this? Like, this can then be used to explain how it serves bourgeoisie ends, not necessarily extract surplus value from the child during the schooling itself.
Yeah, so basically, one argument is that, okay, the education system just makes the labor of people more productive, but it doesn't mean that the children
Or
inside
like more competent.
more competent, but like the productive is the important part.
Okay, I guess.
Uh, that's like the amount they can produce per hour. So
Yeah, yeah.
basically, Bosco, what it mean what it means is that you might say, okay, the labor inside of the school, there is labor inside of the school that school children do,
Yeah.
but they're not exploited. What happens is their labor becomes more productive when they're adults, and then they can be exploited more highly when they're adults. But there's children inside of the school, they're not exploited, and there's no surplus value extracted from them.
So like in order for exploitation to happen, like there needs to be like extraction of surplus value.
Yeah, they're the same. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so like right, okay. So like you exploit someone by taking away the extra value they generated. Yeah, okay. Um, right. How Ignoring the claim about surplus value, this is certainly true. Literacy and numeracy are now more or less necessary for employment of any kind, because the means of production are developed to the extent that they are labor is generally productive enough to demand such skills. Furthermore, education is generally scientific in a non-committed sense, as many workers are expected to apply scientific and technical knowledge. The non-alienated cause of this is the reason socialism must be scientific in theory and as a mode of production too. So, like, what do you mean by ignoring the claim about surplus value? This is certainly true.
So I think that surplus value is extracted from children, but the thing about education making the labor of workers more productive when they are adults is true as well. That's true.
So, like, you're basically stating that exploitation is going on in the school system, but the exploitation serve a function so that the exploitation is justified.
Nah. No, ba basically, Bosco, the
But like, okay, the
there's
important question is, so like, when will learning become exploitation? How do you draw the line?
well, we haven't gotten there yet. We haven't gotten to the section.
Right, so it will be explained later on.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
This
okay.
this part is about the other. This part is about like how the labor is more productive.
after they are schooled. Okay.
Yeah, so the schooling does make the labor more productive, but I think there's more.
But
I
I feel
think
like competency and productiveness is kind of inseparable.
yeah, but productive is like a is the like the Marxian economic terminology.
So like the economic value produced per hour, something like that. Productivity. Right, okay. Yeah. Furthermore, education is generally scientific in a non-committed sense. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by like non-committed sense?
Workers are expected to apply the scientific method, technical knowledge, scientific knowledge.
So like problem solving kind of.
Yeah, but deduction, stuff like that.
Okay, logical deductions. Okay. Um, the non-alienated cause of this is the reason socialism must be scientific in theory, and as a mode of production too. Like, can you elaborate a bit more on this?
Okay, so there's an apparent reason why workers must apply scientific and technical knowledge, right? And that is
Yeah, they
that
have to operate the machine. Yeah.
this is the the form this takes under capitalist society is the apparent form. And this is just that if they don't do this, it'll be bad for profits, it'll be bad for the revenue of the company, yeah. But there is an underlying cause, and this is like not able to be alienated because it is based in reality. And that cause is that the world operates on like uh closer to our scientific observations, like scientific observations accurately or like discoveries accurately describe reality. So this is the reason that socialist theory has to be scientific, because in
Oh,
order to it explains how to change the world.
yeah, yeah. So
Um,
like, socialism has to be scientific. So like, evidence-based,
yeah,
empirical evidence-based. Like, so like, yeah, yeah.
like also what you can't do is just like set up like a religion or something that's like supposed to like achieve socialism. Like if someone tried to like design a religion that like pe if enough people believe it, it just turns the world into socialist. But the religion, they know that what the religion says isn't actually true. But if the believers think it's true, then you'll have socialism. You can't do this because
Yeah, but like,
yeah
yeah, but I guess it'll be true when you're talking about um like your political views, your mindset, and your actions separately. Because like when like your like it's a two-way road, isn't it? Like your mindset, your political views, your way of understanding the world will affect your actions, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like in the future we should like maybe like make a video about like how Christianity can be a catalyst for socialism, you know? Because like I just read through like the part of like the Acts of the Apostles again, and it's like the part where
Okay.
like the all the early church people are like having no um private property and they're like sharing all their properties to the needy and stuff. It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's amazing. Okay.
yeah.
I guess it's just amazing how like under a religious movement and it kind of cultivated that communist community in the early church.
Yeah, there's some great stuff about this by Alan Woods and stuff.
Well, Alan Woods.
Yeah, Alan Woods. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Right. Yeah. However, I sometimes just feel like maybe your writing style is too academic.
Oh, why is that, Oscar?
Like like it's too abstracted for me at least.
Oscar, the abstraction is the knowledge,
I
Oscar.
know, but like
Who
um
did this?
I just feel like it should be easier if you want this article to function and to be able to reach more people. Instead, for a lot of people having like the same knowledge understanding as me, they will have to at least watch through the video and really think about it in order to understand your paragraph.
But I think you're getting along. I
Yeah, I
think
know, but like
you're getting
like you're
along, boss.
not like writing a academic essay to a professor. This article is an article. It's supposed to be done in like a extended project qualification way. So even like a idiot without background knowledge can understand it. But of course, then like maybe like the word count will be doubled or tripled. So yeah, okay, I'll go on. Um, right. However, taking this logic to an extreme, the argument does not remain true. It is not as if students learn how to operate a cashier's till in school or all the most common manufacturing processes. What do you mean by that?
Uh,
So are you talking about like the idea of common sense?
no, t the common sense.
Like how to operate a cashier? There's elements of common sense in like like the cashier, like operating the cashier. Like there's like some mathematical skills, right? But like now, like because I work at Waitrose, right, during the Christmas season, and like all the numerical operations are like automated already. So like you just need to know how to operate the machine.
Well,
So there's
did
like
you have
some
to learn how to operate the machine?
yeah, but like there's like a big sense of like common sense in there.
Yeah, so it's like it's not that difficult to learn how to operate the machine, but you still have to learn to do it.
Yeah. So like what do
You,
you mean
you
by
you're
taking this
better at
logic
doing
to
it now than you than like when you
so like
started.
why is it that when this logic is taken to its extreme, the argument is invalid?
I mean, you went to school, right? It
Yeah?
probably made the value of your labor more productive, yeah?
In a way, yeah.
I mean, if you didn't go to school and didn't learn how to like, read numbers, you wouldn't like do your job, right?
Yeah, but I guess like when when the education system is like too generalized or like the education system is not good enough at like assorting people to their right interests, there can be like a lot of waste of time and labor. Like like I did A levels on biology, chemistry, and maths, and I have to do them in order to finally realize I don't like them and I go on to college to study social science. So like my time spent for A levels are actually pretty wasted. Of course, there are
Yeah,
transferable skills.
yeah, but basically, now you're working in Waitrose. The school didn't teach you how to use the cashier's tool. So if you take the logic that like school labor, like the mental labor of children in school is purely to make it more productive in the future, that they would learn more of these like workplace skills.
Yeah, yeah, I guess.
It's just that, but it's just like yeah.
So you're saying like this the school system as a whole is teaching too much irrelevant knowledge to most people. Such
Well,
as
on
how
the
the
surface,
such as how like the GCSE is like so generalized, I guess. Like you need to take so many subjects.
like on the surface, it's very far away from just like a lot of the stuff is very far away from this thing of all the labor in the school is just to make the productivity of when they grow up higher, and it's not to like for other causes as well.
Oh, so you're saying that like the increase in value of the like so like the education serves as to increase like the economic value of a person, like their productivity and their competence. But like the so you're saying like the cap like the efficiency of the education system can be greatly improved still.
Uh, nah, so basically, there's two ideas. There's the idea that the education makes school children's labor productivity higher. There's the productivity idea, and then there's the surplus value idea that the government is extracting surplus value from the school children. And I'm saying if there was no surplus value from the students, this productivity thing doesn't make total sense. It only makes half sense because why aren't school children, learning maybe cashier's tools not the best example, maybe like safety regulation, stuff like that. Or like these kind of workplace qualifications that people have instead of like general qualifications, like
So you're
specific
saying
workplace
so you're
training.
saying like this the school should maybe like have more courses on first aid training rather than just putting so much time into learning about GCSE, English, maths, geography, stuff like that.
I mean, yeah, why are, you know, so many children learning about history? If the point of education is solely to make the productivity of the labor higher in the future, why are why is that spent learning about history? Is it just because like the general transferable skills in history are like good, like I don't know, like observation, argument, long like writing, essay writing, or is it like there's actually another thing going on as well?
I guess there's like some moral character building in learning history as well. If we are particularly talking about history, because like we learn from our past.
Yeah, but does that increase the productivity of like someone that's in a job, someone working? Because that's the two ideas, right? It's like one, it's like the purpose of education is only for making people more productive when they work, and the other
So
one
like
is
do
like,
you mean like this the education system now mostly is like just help aim to help people to earn more money?
it's not really about the money. It's about like how many commodities they can produce per hour, or like
Right,
how
right.
much money can be made, how much profit can be made off of them.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I would just go on. Um, how long is this next paragraph? Okay, right. Mm, it is not as if students learn how to operate a cashier till in school or the most common manufacturing processes. There are few reasons for this. It serves the ruling class interests more to just do specific training at the workplace. The precise state ruling class interests change with each new government, as they will have different personal ties to competing sections of the bourgeoisie, and policy changes in education take a long time, meaning they simply aren't worth the requisite attention required to micromanage. Policymakers don't really know what they are doing and how education works to serve bourgeois goals. They just know what it vaguely does. does. What we have now is a mixture of adjustments made because of previous results and some decent enough paternalistic concerns. However, this isn't the total explanation. One of the most important things the education system does is the socialization of people in a particular way, so that they are afraid of making mistakes, making noticed, being noticed, being judged, and being excluded, etc. It sets a model of hierarchy deep within the content of lived experience between everyone. Education homogenizes the experience and types of social relations of children between pretty much everyone in the country. It does not homogenize the content of knowledge, as a shallow analysis will point out. It homogenizes as much as possible. It has a hand in the determination of the subjective factor and the maintenance of a population who will pay heed to capital as the crown of society. So like and the maintenance of a population who will pay heed to capital as the crown of society. So are you saying like the population have like a really kind of unified survival living goal to earn money?
Um, yeah, I mean it's a bit deeper than that though, right? Just like just the dominance of capital, Bosco.
Okay. Um, the precise state ruling class interests change with each new government, s- as they will have different personal ties to competing sections of the bourgeoisie. So what do you mean by that? What do you mean like they will have different personal ties to competing sections of the bourgeoisie?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like politicians might have like friends with like one oil company. A different politician has friends with a different oil company, and then like the politician friends with a different oil company. Once they get in power, it's not like, oh, how do we change the education system to make it more profitable for this oil company instead of that oil company? That's a bit like they can't really. It's not worth. It's not worth it, basically.
It's not worth what?
To kind of manage the education system in that way.
To produce laborers that can work better at that oil factory.
Or it could be anything. It could just be like maybe a case study in one geography paper. It's like, oh, this oil company did this thing, and then you have to like learn about the case study.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I guess like because like we don't have much time left for this session, like maybe it would be like nice for you to kind of like explain like in your like plain own words like what this paragraph is about.
Okay. Um, go to the top of the paragraph, Bosco.
Because like we'll come back to
Yeah.
this paragraph again, but like yeah,
Okay.
there's only 4 minutes left.
Uh, so why don't we learn specific workplace kind of courses in school? Why doesn't school seem to be completely orientated towards making people more productive in their adult life? Why are there like geography, geology, history, kind of religious studies? Like most people aren't going to be required to kind of, this isn't the explicit focus isn't on this kind of this kind of thing of making people more productive in the workplace. It's kind of like an abstract kind of, oh, maybe, it teaches people like more general research skills or stuff like that, right?
Also, like, so it's like the secondary primary school is kind of like focusing on teaching like the knowledge and transferable skills, but not exactly like having like a oh like a maybe a 6 year old can jump straight into like a first aid training course to become like a paramedic or something.
I mean, yeah, like pretty much every workplace needs some first aid, right? But right now, most workplaces do have to pay for training. If the school did it, then everyone like that's one thing, and that's like a really obvious thing. But like just in general, um, I'm just saying it's not focused enough for that to be like the pure only reason that
Oh,
like
so you're
yeah.
saying like there's redundancy in the education system.
Yeah, pretty much. If you have this interpretation that it's literally only for um, you know, serving productivity of labor. If you take that position, then it seems to be a bit weird. But there are like counter tendencies.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
first of all, the government changes every like 5 years. So their specific personal ties will be different because the government just serves national bourgeoisie, but like each different like the conservatives, reform, labor, they'll have like different personal ties.
And that in turn will affect the funding of the education system.
Well, it's like the education system is too difficult to alter quickly in order to serve like the specific section that you care about the most. And that's one reason is quite general. Another reason is that the government is like not fully competent as well. So they don't fully understand like why education is needed. Um
Right,
they
okay.
don't, they don't have a full appreciation of it. Yeah. And another thing is that the general skill you learn is like the socialization of people in a particular way,
Yeah,
as I
yeah.
noted. So these are all like counter tendencies and like additional asterisk things about like this productivist theory. But that's not the full theory.
Yeah.
There's the surplus value we'll look at.
Yeah, okay, okay. I actually have like a more of like overarching question. So like what you're trying to prove here is like that uh school children are actually laborers and they are actually being exploited. So like why is that important? Why is this point important to prove?
The proletarians, Bosco.
Go on. What do you mean?
They need to be part of the communist movement.
The school children needs to be part of the communist movement.
Hmm.
That's a good way to put it. Thank you. Okay. Um, Let me see. Um, yeah. Few reasons for this, ruling class interests. Ruling class interests change with every new government. One of the most important thing of the education system does is the socialization of people in a particular way. Um, who pay heed to capital as a crown of society. The biggest reason that the content of schooling isn't strictly employee training, however, is that it would impede on the surplus value that is being extracted within the school. Uh, what is the meaning of impede, by the way?
Like stop.
Okay. Um, It will stop the surplus value that is being extracted from within the school. Why is that?
Uh,
Is it a point that will be further elaborated after on, or is it from
yeah, it's like the transition
to the
to
next?
this episode is about surplus value.
Okay, okay. So like, I guess it's normal that I don't understand what's going on here then.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I will keep going on. Okay. How surplus value is extracted. In chapter 2 of Towards a New Socialism, Paul Cockshott. How do you pronounce that actually?
Cockshot.
And Aline Cottrell detailed their idea of education in a planned socialist economy. Not only would the education itself be free, as it has been in Britain, is it?
Secondary education is free, yeah,
No, it's
and
not.
primary. Yeah, it is.
It's only for grammar schools, though.
Nah, school is free, Bosco.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
What about the private schools? They need tuition fees.
Oh, we
A
talk about that
levels,
later. We talk about that in the counters and responses, Bosco.
as it has been in Britain, and it
For pretty much everyone is free, Bosco.
okay, but in addition, students could receive a regular wage during their period of study. Study is a valid and socially necessary form of work. It produces skilled labor as its output and should be rewarded accordingly. As a whole, this is an incorrect development beyond, okay. As I would argue, what Marx has previously said about wage labor. Yes, I just feel like turning off my mouse because like I don't need to use it and it's like wasting battery.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Mm. Yes. What Marx had previously said about wage labor. Yes, the alienated commodities it creates are socially necessary. And labor can be categorized in terms of social necessity, but it has not been said that labor may effectively fold into itself. What do you mean by labor may in fact like but this it has not been said that labor may effectively fold into itself. What does that mean?
Oh, this is a hard thing, Bosco. Um, can can you look at the start of the paragraph? Look at the whole. Okay, 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 okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, study is a socially necessary form, produces skilled labor as its out. Okay, so what is a commodity? A commodity is something with a use value that's exchanged,
Yeah.
right? Now, in capitalist society, labor is exchanged, but it's not an object with use value. It is just labor.
In capitalism, a commodity is valuable though.
Labor is something you do. It's not something you can like own.
Yeah.
You can't actually own like in slavery you can own people and that's quite simple like that's close to owning labor. But labor itself is just an activity. It's just a physical activity. You can't own like doing something. That's not a
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not an object. You understand?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So so Paul Cockshaw is saying, oh, what study does is not only does it make um, the labor more productive, this productive labor is the output. which means it is the commodity. Or
Well,
like he's saying it functions like a commodity. It's not actually a commodity,
yeah,
but
I
it's
know,
like
but
a
like I
commodity.
guess like there has long been a cliche in Hong Kong as well about how like the education system is just like a supply chain, like and how we are all the commodities of it.
Yeah, but look, that's some messed up stuff, man. You can't like
Yeah, I know. Like
because
that's why that's
what's going
that's why we made the artwork of like the slave of the
no,
educated.
yeah, okay. But look,
Like I feel like we should like attach that artwork somewhere in like yeah. That artwork is kind of like related, isn't it?
yeah, but look, how are you gonna fold? So what kind of implications does this have? Say like you have your inputs, you have so to create any commodity, you need some amount of capital, you need some amount of labor, right?
Yeah.
But now some of your capital's like human capital, but that's your productive labor. So that's like no, that's just part of the labor. That's just all the labor has like some sort of skill attached to
Yeah.
it. Like why on earth w would you treat it like a commodity then? Why on earth would the productive labor be a commodity?
I don't think understand what it means though. Like effectively fold into itself. What is itself?
Labor.
So yes, the alienated commodities it creates are socially necessary. Um, what are the alienated commodities?
So that's anything that you make that you don't consume yourself isn't
Oh,
is
okay.
alienated from your own labor.
Oh, mm. Study is a fairly socially necessary form of work. The output should be rewarded accordingly. Alienated commodities it creates are socially necessary, and labor can be categorized in terms of social necessity. Um, but it has not been said that labor may effectively fold into itself. So, like, what do you mean by labor fold into itself then? Like, labor fold into labor.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that like a point that will be elaborated later on? Because, like,
Nope.
is
Okay,
it
look.
is it important?
Uh, kind of. So basically, think about um, base analysis of like it's
Yeah.
like that. It's like labor turning into productive labor can be used as a capital with your non-productive labor. It's like not making sense.
What is non-productive labor?
Exactly. Doesn't exist.
Let's move on. Should be rewarded accordingly. Mm, Choice in terms of social necessity. Um, okay. Concrete labor, you see, is a special and unique input. Okay, concrete labor, you see, is a special and unique input because it cannot be accumulated as is.
Exactly. So look. let's just compare it to time and mass. Okay, so you could like think of concrete labor as just like in seconds. Like you have 6 seconds of concrete labor, and
Yeah,
then
it's a
like
special and unique
to
input
produce.
because it cannot be accumulated as this.
Say like okay. So think about it like this. Every second of like a person that hasn't gone to school, they haven't gone to school. Every second they produce half a kilogram of commodity. Someone that has gone to school, every second they produce 1 kilogram of commodity.
Mm.
If you want to buy 5 seconds of someone of an educated person's labor, that's not mass. You're not buying 5 kilograms of commodity. You're buying 5 seconds of labor. But what Paul Cockshott is trying to do, he's trying to say like, oh, the skilled labor is even though it's a rate, it it's it has a mass, but it doesn't. It the dimensional analysis doesn't work. It's like that. It's like logically incongruent. Like
Right,
that's
okay.
why
Like, do you think I think like
the fundament. Yeah.
this concept
So
needs a diagram. That's
it's
what.
not like fundamentally incongruent in like a elevated sense. It's literally just this thing of like, see, I didn't even know until I reread like this like the labor can't be accumulated. It gives it a special, that's a different quality compared to like everything else that's exchanged under capitalism.
So like, yeah, I guess you can measure labor by time. So like you work for 1 hour, they give
Oh
you
yeah.
lowest minimum wage, and they're sort of buying your labor.
Yeah, there's labor time, but I wasn't specifically meaning socially necessary labor. I was just explaining how, but it's close to time in that sense, like the way it can be accumulated. It gives like like um a good metaphor. Okay. Well,
Maybe you can try out a metaphor to explain this question, to this concept. My abstractions are not working.
yeah.
In this context, what is the quality of the labor that cannot be accumulated?
Okay, so say you have like a commodity, right? And then you can like add labor to it.
Yeah, like a production line, and then you add a labor to it. So like you put the like the A part of a product to the B part, so the product is complete.
You can visibly see like, oh, someone's done work on this, right?
Yeah,
You can see like, oh, there's labor there. There's labor in there. Yeah.
yeah,
That's congealed. So like it's just like labor that's been congealed into the economy, into the not the economy, the commodity, and you can't get it back.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Like the
can't
time spent cannot be gained back.
you can't like separate the labor out of the commodity and then say, okay, I have like 15 minutes of labor and I can use it to do that to change this instead of changing this thing. The change has already happened, right?
Yeah, yeah. It has the change, the completion and the change of the product is completed. Indeed.
Mm. So we say there's congealed labor in the commodity, but this is not the same as labor itself, which is just a physical activity.
So like so like this bag of medicine, it needs the receptionist to put the medicine in there. So like the labor is congealed already. And what's your second point? Like, it's
So
like the fact of the medicine inside this bag is different than the action of the receptionist putting the medicine into the bag.
yeah, the receptionist putting the medicine into the bag is labor, but what she did now is that that bag now has some amount of congealed labor, which it didn't have already, which was the labor of putting the medicine into the bag.
Yeah, like the quality of that labor is like added to this bag. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you can't do is you can't like show someone this bag and say, hey, there's some amount of congealed labor in this. What you can do is I'll give you this bag, and then what you can do is have the labor, get the labor back of someone putting something into a bag. Say like someone's trying to do their shopping, and you say, I'll give you this bag of medicine, and what you can do is you can get the labor back. So the medicine will go out of the bag, the medicine will leave the bag, but what you will get is the labor of someone putting your shopping into the bag.
So like the conduit labor is like the fact that receptionist put it in there, and the fact that you using taking out the medicine doesn't remove the conduit labor because it has happened already. So it can't be accumulated.
You can't accumulate the labor. You can accumulate congealed labor. You can get the receptionist to put more medicine in the bag. You know, you can get you can do more. You can add like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, like you can
stuff to the bag.
yeah, like conduit labor can be accumulated. Yeah.
When it congeals, the labor dies. The labor's dead now.
Yeah, it's in the
It's
past.
yeah. So, but the labor itself, like the action of putting the medicine into the bag, that that can't be accumulated. You can accumulate like the congealed commodities, the this type of stuff. You can do more
Yeah,
labor
like
to the bag.
you can put more medicine into the bag, but you cannot
Hmm. Yeah.
but you cannot
Okay.
what?
What?
You can put more medicine into the bag, but you cannot what?
You cannot get the labor back after you take it out. You can't get the labor back.
Okay, okay, right. I think I kind of get it. Like, let's move on, I guess. Um,
Wait. You get it, yeah? You get it.
test me.
Okay, look. Now here's the thing. Here's the thing. The competent labor from being in the school, right?
Yeah.
So after you go to school, Paul Cockshott is saying, "Oh, you get these skills, right?
Yeah, the medicine is put it into the bag. Yeah. You got the skills.
Is that congealed? Is that like the labor itself? When
Like you've learned the skills, so like it happened in the past, so it's condued. It's like a quality that is attached to you. Yeah, so it's a condued.
it's a congealed quality, but is the activity of performing more skilled labor or more productive or more competent labor a congealed thing, or is the labor still as it was before, just labor?
I don't understand the question. So like, um, so you're saying like you've learned the skills. So like the congealed labor is like the knowledge like attached to you. So like, what's the second part of your question?
Okay, the reception. Okay, say there's two receptionists. One has been to school, one has not been to school. The one that's been to school puts the medicine in the bag faster. Okay.
Yeah.
Puts the fries in the bags faster. Okay. And then, um, is the labor of the educated receptionist.
Is the labor of the educate is the work of the educated receptionist?
Can you separate that from the bag?
No.
So it's both labor, yeah? And they're both the labors can't be like separated out from the bag after it's congealed.
Yeah, yeah. Because like A bag is like from labor A put it the things in
Hmm.
slower, but B is like the trained labor put it in faster. So like although both of them physically hold the same property and perhaps value, one is made faster and one is made slower.
You see, Paul Cockshott is saying um, that you can treat the skilled labor as a commodity instead of as labor.
Okay.
So you can, so that implies that you can like buy and sell it ev without it being congealed into anything. Like someone can just say, okay, I'm going to preserve an hour of labor today and be able to work for 9 hours in the space of eight tomorrow. It breaks physics. It's not materially correct. It doesn't
Unless you
apply.
could work faster.
No, that's not the same. It's just like it's just so like too obvious, right? It's just like no one ever thinks about, oh, can you separate the actual labor out of the bag? What like can you undo labor and like give it to someone
Yeah,
else?
it feels even trivial as well because like when the medicine is put it in, it's
Yeah,
there. It's happened in the past. You can't change that.
but this is like the point.
This is the point.
Like that whole paragraph is just like kind of just to say that, Bosco. It's just like you can't do
Wow.
this.
This paragraph, like how surplus value is extracted,
Like, yeah, this paragraph is about like how the labor,
how the con
educated or not, productive or not, this labor, you still can't, um,
so like the conduit labor you cannot get it back.
yeah, by being yeah,
Right, okay. I guess like now it seems I understand I would read it again then. Um detail their idea of education in the planned socialist economy. Not only would the education itself be free, blah blah blah. Um but in addition, students would could receive a regular wage during their period of study. Study is a valid and socially necessary form of work. Produce skilled labor as an output and should be rewarded accordingly. As a whole, this is in an incorrect development beyond. As I would argue what Marx had previously said about wage labor, yes, the alienated commodities it creates are socially necessary, and labor can be categorized in terms of social necessity, but it has not been said that labor may effectively fold into itself. Concrete labor, you see, is a special and unique input because it cannot be accumulated as is, only congealed as it is performed over a change in time. Though Cockshott and Cottrell's account is a counter-argument to mine, I believe that I can dissuade people from it with the following account of how surplus value is extracted from pupils. However, I will provide a more direct rebuttal in the future by formulating mental labor, and I cede credit to the initial observation that study is a form of socially necessary labor to Cockshott and Cottrell. Although I doubt they were the earliest, they are the only theorists I know to have said this. I guess like what makes it even harder to understand this paragraph is that you're writing this paragraph with a bit of a more understanding of what Paul Shot and Aileen Cottrell is talking about, you know?
See, they're scared to even call it labor because they know it's like
What are they
weird.
scared of to be called labor?
They said like so study is a valid and socially necessary form of work. They don't say labor because they know that when you say labor, all the things that Marx said about labor, about it, you can't accumulate labor, you know, uh, those problems come up, and they're not going to be able to make this argument that skilled labor is the output, and then that's like
Oh, so like so Paul and Aileen is trying to prove like support the stance that pupils like school children are not laborers. So they are your counter voices, basically. Right, okay.
they're, they're scared to call it labor because it would make it'd be like labor turns into skilled labor by itself, or like what, you know? It's really like yeah.
I guess to think about the education system as like a supply chain and students are going through the machine being modified, adding conduit labor and coming out as a more productive um labor. I guess that's a useful metaphor to capture why like you can't forget something. Like you can't it's like yeah, you can forget something by not using that knowledge for a long time, like the memory curve. But like when a medical student learn to do a surgery, you can't just tell yourself to forget it. So I guess that kind of echoes how you can't just simply by taking the medicine out of the bag and that removes the congealed labor.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah, my problem is skilled labor as an output. Well, it's not a commodity you can buy and sell. You can't buy and sell the labor itself, right? You can only like you can buy time from someone to do labor,
Yeah, like the
but like
congealed labor,
the
like
actual labor is different. Yeah. And
yeah, yeah, you can't buy knowledge, but you can tell someone to come to work for you.
yeah. The
You,
labor
yeah,
becomes skilled as a process. It's not like an output of a labor. Well, there's the labor involved, but like the skilled labor production is not like a commodity output. It's not like it doesn't have that form, you know? It doesn't take the form of a commodity.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, next paragraph. We're gonna do this.
So like in this video, we will like kind of have kind of like I guess a summary and also like extensions and also like overreach on basically like the what you are trying to achieve in this article. So like where do you think we should pick it up?
We'll start from the start, Bosco.
Okay.
We'll start
You,
from the
you need to
start.
boil you need to try your best to boil down your freaking long essay into 40 minutes. This is
Look,
your now this is like your only mission in life.
School children are proletarian. The far reaches of heaven have declared this fact to us. Now, what type of analysis would you need, Bosco, in order to prove this? We would need an economic and a philosophical argument, Bosco.
Right.
Hmm. Okay. Now look, school children, they do rely on wage labor, Bosco. They do rely on the household's income in order to sustain themselves. And look, what what is labor in the capitalist society? Well, labor what does labor have to create, Bosco? What does labor have to create?
Commodity.
What do those commodities need to have?
Value.
What kind of values?
Like functional values. Like they,
Okay. They need to have use values, yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Like,
use values.
okay. Use values, Bosco. Use values.
Right.
And those commodities, they can't just be kept. They can't just be hoarded, Bosco. In a capitalist society, what has to happen to every commodity? Like, what do you want commodities to do? What do you want to happen to commodities?
To be exchanged.
Yes, Bosco.
The
You
flow
need
of
to
money.
exchange the commodities. All right. Look, but there are some types of labor which are not exchanged. What kind of labor would not be exchanged in a capitalist society?
I'm not sure.
The labor in the household.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. Um, let's keep going. Let's keep going. So, okay, we have this thing. We expect labor, we expect labor in capitalism to create commodities that are exchanged. So how could school children be proletarian when it doesn't seem like they make a wage? Now, look, we can look at physical labor, we can look at mental labor, we can try to understand this. Let's look at the labor of school children. In what way are school children laboring? If they're just sitting there, are they laboring?
like
Let's have a think about that.
if they
Let's
are
have a
like
think about
sitting
that.
there and not consciously, mentally, and physically doing anything, they are not laboring.
Right. Well, some school children do that. I'm not gonna say who, Bosco, but I've seen some people. I've seen some people. But you see, there's a thing that happens when you do that. You get pushed along by in-class testing, homework, and what does everyone have to do in the school, Bosco? They have to abstract sensory uh their sensory perceptions. They have to make
Sensory,
abstractions.
auditory,
Yeah, scroll down.
to where?
They have to abstract their senses. They have to read things. They have to understand things. And then
Yeah.
if they want to write notes, they have to take the abstraction and then turn it back, abstract it again into physical, like motor things, and then try to represent that information into like a physical transformation. And in the end, there always is the necessity that someone should have to do the test in the capitalist society. And if you don't transform the test physically, um, you're not able. That's done. That's done. So in the end, ultimately, embedded in the logic of the test, you have to transform material.
Yeah.
But the mental labor, that's an abstraction. That's the process of abstracting stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. The rate of abstraction is homogenized between everyone in the school, Bosco. So how what happens? 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 In the class, 30 people, one teacher. The teacher is saying things at a set rate, and everyone receives those abstractions at a set rate. What else happens? There's the year groups. Everyone in the year group is trying to fix in the same rate. What else happens? There's a national curriculum. The whole country learning things in a broad stroke in a set rate. What other things are set, Bosco? We got key stages, bourgeois developmental developmental theory. These all homogenize the rate of abstraction between students.
Mm,
And that's the thing. That's the thing. Okay.
yeah,
So minute to minute activities, a teacher says, "Oh, we're gonna do this for 10 minutes. We're gonna do this for five minutes, 15 minutes." Minute to minute activities homogenized. Okay? Hour to hour activities, each class is in a timetable in the hour. Homogenized, Bosco.
yeah,
Homogenized. Week to
yeah,
week activities, homogenized between students. Year
yeah,
to year activities across the country, homogenized.
yeah.
At every layer, we homogenize education to the highest possible degree by a gigantic bureaucracy. A gigantic bureaucracy does this, Bosco,
Yeah.
which is a tenth of all the government's money being spent to maintain this giant bureaucracy, Bosco. It's very important to them.
Right.
Okay. The content of the abstractions. So the mental labor is the doing of the abstraction. The content of the abstraction is fundamentally alienating as well. It's alien from your own desires, from your own passions and
Not
interests.
necessarily. Sometimes people do like their A level.
Necessarily, because the function of the use value of the abstraction that you do in your mental labor and in school is always not for yourself, it's for the purposes of a test, necessarily in the school. So it all has to be alienated fundamentally because you do the abstraction, you do the mental labor to do the test.
Well,
Um,
some people thinks that doing the test helps you to achieve your goal.
okay, but the abstraction itself that you do in school is for the test.
Well, you can
The,
say
the
like
test is like secondary
you can
features. The test can like
you
help
can
you.
say like doing biology A levels or doing chemistry A levels is for you to becoming a medic in the future.
Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is the labor you do in school, the abstraction is orientated for the test.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
The the
how is that a
test
bad thing?
I didn't say it's bad. I'm just saying what it is.
But it's part of your point. Okay, yeah, keep going.
It's alienating.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a
it
it's
induces a
alienated
sense of
away.
like it induces a sense of boredom when you're trying to become a medic, but you're learning about plants. Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Like the homogenization of
Well, I'll give examples, Bosco. See, I give examples. I give examples. So a basic thing could just be the test only needs you to memorize a definition without understanding it properly, but the teacher wants you to understand the definition properly. Okay?
yeah.
So, sometimes students even annoyed because they know the thing, and then the teacher's like insisting. Sometimes you get that. Anyways, um, but what is the purpose of creating these mental abstractions through the mental labor? Is it merely, Bosco, to make the labor of someone more productive in the future? Is that all there is to it? Therefore, you could just like fix the theory just by saying, no, school children aren't really proletarian. They're not exploited economically. But what does happen is in school, they gain certain skills and such that in the future, their labor has a higher level of productivity. Okay. Yeah, so basically, Bosco, it is true. It
So,
is true that it is true that in the future, the 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 school child is gonna have a high level of abstraction. Okay. But but what happens is that's not the long and short of it. But it is true. But look, you can't say it's definitively. Like school children aren't learning to be cashiers in school, right? All right. Let's get to how surplus labor is extracted. Okay. So let's get to that. Let's get to that. Surplus value. Right, so Bosco, what does Paul Cockshaw and Alan Cottrell say about um what do they think education produces as an output, Bosco? Remind me. I've forgotten.
well, like the only thing I remember about Paul and Alan is like the bag of medicine. So like I'm not sure if that's right, but like they think they can. So like you put the medicine in, and you're adding congealed labor into this bag, and are they thinking like you can just simply take out the medicine and you're like removing the congealed labor from it?
They think that education produces skilled labor as an output. So basically, they think
So
that,
how's that different than your view?
oh, they think that you can add labor to labor and make congealed labor, which is laborious.
What's
Okay, so
what do you mean by
instead of
laborious?
instead of putting medicine into the bag, let's say you put labor into your labor.
So instead of putting medicine, you say adding labor together.
Like, yeah, like adding labor to someone in order to make them have more labor.
Yeah, I get it.
So to be clear, that's the activity of doing something. Activity of doing something. So let's say your labor is to run and you're running. Okay, and the labor is running. They think that someone can add running labor to your running in order to make faster running as the output.
They think you can add running labor to running. So how's it actually like that, runner? So it's like the trainer thinks the runner can have more frequent and harder training so they can run better.
Oh, that's one thing, right? That's like, a runner training, so they're doing labor by training, okay? And then when they do the running later, they're better at running. Their running is more productive,
Yeah.
but is there congealed labor in the running when he runs in the future, when they run in the future?
Well, you will say the runner itself possesses the effort, like the congealed labor of the trainer, but when in the future he runs, he is creating new congealed labor to himself. So, what's your question again?
Look. Skilled labor is not a commodity.
No, no, speak in the metaphor first before you elaborate. Or is the metaphor not useful? If it's not useful,
Okay, look, the the faster. running is not something which can be exchanged.
Yeah.
So someone can't buy the faster running off of the runner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like you can recruit the runner, but you cannot just buy the faster running to yourself and you can run faster. No, no, not that way.
Yeah. So look, a school, right?
Like there are some exceptions.
Look,
Let's say
look,
a
look,
pen.
look.
Like let's say a pen and like the ink inside. You can buy the ink, but like you can't buy the
That's
faster running from a run to yourself.
that's the difference between labor and commodities. Commodities
Yeah.
can be accumulated.
Yeah, like the ink can be communicate accumulated, but the
Yeah.
faster running quality of a runner cannot be bought or
Can't be
accumulated.
accumulated, yeah. Yeah.
That's what but that's what you're meaning the whole time.
But if I said that before, Bosco, you wouldn't have understood.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay, okay. Yeah. Your continued labor finally results in enough abstraction in my mind so that I finally seems to be understanding what you're writing about. Congratulations.
Uh, so skill. So look, when someone goes to school, right, and makes skilled labor, okay, that skilled labor can't be like bought by the school. The school can't buy the skilled labor. No one else can buy the skilled labor. Like you have the skilled labor, they can buy your time, etc., but they can't buy the labor itself. They can't buy the activity.
Yeah.
Labor is just human activity, yeah?
Yeah,
What
the
is labor?
same as
Labor is
you need the machine and the labor to for the product to come out of the machine. You can't just ding and you buy the mach you buy the product.
yeah, yeah. You can't yeah, okay. In capitalism there's unpaid labor.
Yeah.
Um Remember, labor is just socially necessary human activity. That's it.
Labor is human necessary activity. Yes, okay.
Okay. So there's unpaid labor in capitalism.
Yeah, those are called
There's
volunteers
another thing. There's another thing.
in sometimes.
Some people think that the labor of school children is reproductive labor. Okay. Um, social reproduction to do with like, so what this is like,
Yeah, to continue like the the existence of the working class, skilled working class.
yeah. This isn't true either. I mean, it, uh, not as much, not as more than like any other type of labor. How is the surplus lab value extracted? What is where is the surplus value? I can't see it, Bosco. I can't see the surplus value. All I see is humans doing things, yeah,
Yeah.
and then like they get better at those things, but they're not like you can't buy and sell the 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 person's skills. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
Like like the formation of the machine, the structure of the machine has to exist to be able to produce the product. You can't just buy out part of the machine and expect it to pull out the whole product.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The necessary components. Okay. Um, So here's what actually happens. A child does a test, right? Yeah.
Mm.
The child does a test. The test um is proof of mental labor that the student's done at school. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the test is the proof. Yeah.
Test is proof of mental labor, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you sure, Bosco?
The test is the proof that the mental labor succeeded.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, good to be on the same page.
But I'm not so
Nice
sure
to
what you're
have you.
getting at.
Yeah, I'm sure also. I'm just making sure you're sure.
Okay, okay, right.
The the government needs all the children to do the test.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, no one's gonna no one's gonna put money into the economy, Bosco. I'm gonna say the UK, everyone who lives in the
Say it again.
UK is stupid,
I, I was
right?
I was a bit distracted thinking about playing Minecraft tonight with my cousins. Say it again.
So basically, if children don't do the test, people will be like the UK. I'm not gonna send money to the UK because everyone who lives in there is really dumb. It's a country of idiots, and I'm not gonna invest in it. I'm not gonna invest in the country.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
You
when
won't
the
you
student does
won't
the
you won't
test,
invest on a machinery that is nearly broken.
yeah, when the student does the test, basically it validates their mental labor and it's the exchange. The student gets the test results back, which is like the wage, is the remuneration, and the government surplus value is in the confidence that foreign investors have to the workforce.
So are you saying like the A-level certificates that we are getting from our A-level is actually worth less than our labor?
Yeah, it's
Mm.
worth less than the hundreds of hours you put into your A level, yes. Thousands, tens of thousands, maybe, I think. Tens of thousands. I mean, in total, right? Like Bosco.
Like it'll be a counterintuitive way to think about it that way, but I guess when you're putting a more of like a economic philosophical Marxist,
Oh yeah, I know it's very counterintuitive. I know that people think education, what is it? It's a
because like
cost on
you're making two
society.
big points. Like the first point is that yes, school children are laborers, they are working. And the second point is like the certificates that they are gaining worth less than what they are actually working.
And then the total, yeah, I never thought about like the certificates being worth, but it's yeah,
Yeah, because
it's
like the
part of the thing,
certificates are
yeah.
what they are working towards, is like supposed to be their wage. And if you're saying that there's like exploitation going on, then the certificate is worth less than what they're actually worth less than their effort.
It's necessarily exploitation, otherwise it wouldn't happen.
Like there's certainly a lot of ways to support this, such as like you study the whole biology curriculum, but you will never actually need to, yeah, you will never have a biology answer paper that you need to retrieve all your knowledge. So like yeah,
Oh yeah, like yeah, of
you're
course.
putting in more effort to deal with the random. randomness of tests.
Bosco, this is a great discovery. Like, Bosco, you've taken my theory and you've started applying it to your like your own thought. You know you're criticizing. You understand like it's counterintuitive but true. Like you got it, Bosco. You've got it. We've done the thing. We've done the thing.
Oh, so it's mission achieved then.
I mean, like
Briefly.
we've done like you got it, right? You
Yeah, yeah.
understand.
Yeah, like there's so many shit tons of things in the biology textbook that they would never test on.
Yeah, bloody biology, like
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's that's just one of the nature's like evil natures imbued it into uh university entrance exam system into tests
The test, Bosco. The test is
usually.
oh, that's why my mission for educate like communism, part of it is the abolition of wage labor, right? But in education specifically,
But I like to say it is like the elimination of income inequality.
okay, look, there's no income in communism.
Yeah, it sounds
Anyways,
more Christian, you know?
um, but for education, the objective is the abolition of the test, Bosco.
Wow, okay. But you still need something to validate the mental labor though.
Yeah, I'm always working on it. You know,
I guess
when I
apprenticeships are one of the models, like you're actually earning money while learning.
yeah, but look at the exploitation, man. Like,
But like those are just one of the natures of capital.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, but
Yeah, like in order for capitalism to happen, exploitation needs to happen.
yeah, yeah, of
And that's
course.
basically one of the best arguments why you should support socialism, not capitalism. I think that's one of the points that Pope Francis is like implying as well.
Oscar, you can read the article again in your own time. You can read counters and responses, Bosco. Counters and responses.
Right?
In a week, we'll talk again about it.
Of course, of course.
Okay, okay.
Well, I hope that all these sessions have helped you to become a more efficient, um, gain some like conduit laboring teaching skills in you.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like, do you need to like when you're like doing your like final dissertation of your like philosophical course, like philosophy course, do you need to like have like some sort of like a dissertation like presentation?
I don't know, Bosco. I have no idea.
Because like if your course like includes like presentation and actually like teaching like transmission of knowledge, I'm sure that this few hours you have spent, you have gained something. Of how many shortcuts you're making in your essays.
Shortcuts.
Abstractions. Like you need to
I thought
define
you thought it was too long, Bosco. I thought you thought the article was too long.
the article needs to be longer. Basically, that's what I'm saying. If you want if you want someone to understand your article, like with
I
s
think
some
people
sort of
can
knowledge
understand
about
it.
Marxism and all these things, you
Well,
suddenly need so much more explanatory. passages.
Bosco, like kind of the question of like are school children proletarian is like quite abstract. I mean, it's only really relevant if you're really Marxist. It's like people
No,
under
I get no, it's not. Like I think it's
the category of proletarian doesn't mean much to non-Marxists.
no, but like it matters because we are talking about the education system. Like
Oh
if
yeah,
you
of course.
like the main like I guess societal like contributions of your article would probably be like how like to show the exploitation of students because they need to put more effort into a test and which the test give them back a certificate to prove their efforts and the truth is like the test will never actually test all the knowledge inside the test book. So that's like a form of exploitation of their efforts. And also like some yeah, it's also kind of like removing this like social expectation that yeah, like children are supposed to be hardworking in the school. And like it's kind of like showing that no, it's not like the system is shit,
All right, see you later, Bosco.
right? Okay. Let's just stop the recording. Like, oh yeah, say the four words. The four blessings to a YouTuber. Like we are both
Like,
YouTubers, right?
subscribe, comment, share.
Exactly. Okay.
Okay.
Pause recording.